He was 78 years old when he finally realized his life had never belonged to him. All those years, working in factories, fixing machines, lifting metal heavier than his bones, taking orders from men half his age, and never once doing the one thing he always wanted: study, learn, read, become something more than a tired pair of hands. But life has a way of stealing dreams from those who don't have the strength to defend them. He had been too busy surviving to start living. And now, sitting alone in a small, dimly lit room, walls peeling, fan making an old, tired noise, he realized something terrifying. There was nothing left to survive for. No wife, she died years ago. No children, he never had time to raise any. No friends, they all drifted away like forgotten names in an old phone book. Just him, and the weight of an entire lifetime that slipped through his fingers like dust. He looked at his trembling hands, wrinkled, thin, bones pushing through skin like they were trying to escape. These were the hands that had worked for 60 years, but not once had they held a pencil for learning. He whispered to himself, "I've lived a whole life, and yet I haven't lived at all." And then, as if the universe itself was tired of watching him drown in regret, a sound echoed outside. Children, laughing, running, their school bags bouncing against their backs. He watched them pass his window, bright uniforms, bright faces, bright futures. He felt something twist inside him, not jealousy, but longing, a deep, ancient longing that had been buried under decades of exhaustion. What would it feel like to sit in a classroom again? The thought hit him like lightning. It lit up parts of his heart he didn't know still worked. He stood up slowly, his knees cracked, his back protested, but he stood, as if pulled up by the last remaining thread of his soul. He stepped to the mirror. An old man stared back, face sagging, eyes tired, hair silver, a man the world no longer expected anything from. But inside, something whispered, "It's not too late." He put on his cleanest shirt, still wrinkled, still old. He combed his hair, hands shaking with both age and fear. He found his old sandals, one strap torn but functional, and then he opened the door of his house with more courage than he had ever opened any door in his life. He stepped outside. The sun hit his eyes. It felt sharp, alive, real. For the first time in decades, he wasn't walking to a factory or a workshop or a mechanic shop or a place where men shouted orders at him. No, he was walking to something that belonged to him. The school gate, just 2 blocks away, a place he had passed 10,000 times but never dared enter. As he got closer, his steps slowed. Fear, that old enemy, crept back into his bones. What will they say? What if I embarrass myself? What if I'm too late? What if they laugh at me? But then, the loudest fear of all hit him. What if I die without ever trying? His chest tightened, his throat burned, his eyes filled. He walked faster. The school gate came into view, tall, blue, a little rusty, but standing with pride. Children were entering, teenagers pushing each other, music leaking from someone's headphones, books clutched in small hands, future shimmering all around. And among them, an old man approached, aging hands, aching bones, heart trembling with a dream older than he was. The guard saw him. Confused, he straightened up. "Uncle, what are you looking for?" The old man swallowed hard, his voice cracked. "A chance."
The guard blinked. What do you mean? The old man inhaled, deep, painful, honest. I want to study. The world seemed to stop. Birds paused mid-flight. Children slowed their steps. Wind held its breath. A 78-year-old man stood at the gate of a school, a place he had been denied his whole life. His voice shook again. Please, let me finish what I left behind. And that was the moment the world finally realized he wasn't just entering a school. He was walking back into the life he was meant to live. The guard didn't know what to say. No one had ever walked to this gate with such trembling hope. Children stared, some with confusion, some with hidden laughter, some with curiosity, the pure kind. The old man, his name was Yousuf, kept his gaze lowered, not out of shame, out of fear, that if he raised his eyes, someone would break the only dream he had left. Finally, the
guard cleared his throat. Uncle, you want to study? Here? Yousuf nodded, slowly, deliberately, like someone signing a contract with destiny. I worked my whole life, he said, voice trembling, but I never learned how to read, not properly. He looked at the school building, red brick, sun-warmed, alive with noise. I don't want to die without knowing how a sentence feels when I read it myself. The guard felt something pinch his heart. Who was he to refuse him? Who was he to decide that dreams had deadlines? He opened the gate, a small gesture. But to Yousuf, it felt like someone had opened an entire world. As Yousuf stepped inside, one of the kids whispered, "Why would an old man come to school?" Another murmured, "Maybe he's lost." But a little girl, hair tied in two messy ponytails, said something that froze the air. Maybe he just never got the chance when he was young. Silence. Truth spoken from the smallest mouth. Yousuf walked down the corridor. Each step felt like stepping on the bones of all the years he lost. He passed posters, Science Fair Reading Day, Spelling Bee, Be Kind, Be Brave, words he never had a chance to be part of. He reached the office. The school secretary looked up, surprised but not unkind. "Yes? How may we help you?" Yousuf stood straight as his back allowed. His eyes glistened. "Madam, I want to enroll." She blinked. "Enroll? A student?" "Yes," his voice cracked. "A student." Before she could respond, a voice from inside called, "Send him in." The principal, old, wise, a face lined with experience and empathy. Yousuf entered, hands shaking, heart pounding. He felt like a child about to be judged all over again. The principal looked at him for a long moment. "What is your name, sir?" "Yousuf Ahmed." "Age?" He hesitated, not because he was ashamed, but because he feared the number might close a door. 78. The principal leaned back, not shocked, not amused, just thoughtful. "And why now, after so many years, do you want to study?" Yousuf swallowed hard. His story rose in his throat like a tide. "My father died when I was 10, he began. Mother was sick. There was no food. School felt like a luxury. He breathed in, deep, painful, truthful. So I worked, and I kept working. 1 year became 5. 5 became 20. And suddenly I was too old to start again." His eyes filled. "I gave the world my youth, my strength, my entire life, but I never gave myself a single dream." He wiped his eyes with the back of his hand. "I want to die with at least one wish fulfilled." The principal's eyes softened. He stood, walked slowly to Yousuf, put a gentle hand on his shoulder. "Mr. Yousuf,
Yousuf looked up, hope trembling in his chest. "You are welcome here." Yousuf's breath left his body like a prayer released. The principal continued, "But I must warn you, classrooms are loud. Teenagers can be unkind. Lessons will be fast. Assignments may be difficult. Tests? Even harder." Yousuf straightened, his voice firm. "I have faced years harder than any exam." The principal nodded. A smile formed, not pity, respect. "Very well. Tomorrow morning, you begin." Yousuf's heart jumped. He covered his mouth, a small sob escaping, a sob made of regret, hope, and rebirth. As he turned to leave, the principal called out, "Mr. Yousuf!" Yousuf turned. "Yes?"
This school, this classroom, this journey, it may change you. Yousuf lowered his eyes. "It's the only thing I want to change me." He stepped outside, into the corridor, lit not by lights alone, but by a future he never thought belonged to him. Tomorrow, he would sit at a desk for the first time in 68 years. He walked home slowly, but his shadow behind him looked lighter, as if it too had been waiting for this day. When he reached home, he sat on his bed, hands trembling, heart pounding, eyes wet. He whispered, "Tomorrow, I become a student again." Morning came slowly, the kind of morning that feels nervous, as if the sun itself is unsure whether to rise. Yousuf woke up before the alarm he didn't own. Old men don't need alarms. Their lives have trained them to rise early, even when there is nothing left to rise for. But today he rose for something fragile, something precious, something late, but his. He stood in front of the mirror, the same cracked glass that had watched him age year after year, mistake after mistake, regret after regret. He smoothed his shirt, ran shaky fingers through what little hair remained, and whispered to his reflection, "Don't fear them. Fear the years you wasted, not the ones you are about to reclaim." His reflection looked back, not younger, but braver. He picked up an old cloth bag, the one he once used to carry tools and metal parts. Today, it would carry notebooks and pencils. A strange, trembling warmth filled his chest, the kind of warmth a dying ember feels when touched by wind for the first time in years. He closed his door, locked it, turned the key slowly, almost ceremonially, like he was closing the chapter of an old life. The walk to school. The street was waking up. Vendors arranging fruits, bicycles wobbling past, children dragging bags twice their size, life moving forward, as it always does. Some neighbors stared as Yousuf walked, a 78-year-old man in a clean shirt holding a bag that clearly did not belong to work. Old Mrs. Farida called out, "Where are you off to so early, Yousuf?" He paused only for a moment, then said with a soft smile, "To school." She blinked, thought he was joking, then saw his eyes, and understood. She whispered under her breath, "May God hold you up, old friend." As he walked, he could feel eyes following him, not mocking, just surprised. This street had never seen a story like this. He walked faster, his heart racing not because of age, but because he felt like he was walking toward himself. When the school gate appeared, his breath caught. The same blue gate, no longer a barrier, now a beginning. Students swarmed inside, giggling, shouting, complaining, gossiping. A world buzzing with youth. A world he was about to enter as a stranger. The guard saw him and smiled warmly. "Good morning, student Yousuf." The way he said student hit Yousuf like a blessing, a word he had waited 6 decades to hear. Entering the classroom. Finding the right classroom was the longest walk of his life. Numbers on doors, loud voices behind them, the smell of chalk,
The thump of bags being dropped, the scrape of chairs, the chaos of youth. He finally reached his room, Class 9B, a number he had once dreamed of sitting behind. He stepped inside, and the room fell silent, a silence with weight, a silence thick enough to cut through. 30 teenagers turned to him at once, 30 pairs of eyes filled with shock, confusion, whispers forming but not spoken yet. Yousuf froze at the door. His heart pounded painfully. He could
hear his younger self whisper, "They'll laugh. Turn back." But his older self, the one who had buried every dream for decades, took a breath and stepped forward. He sat at an empty desk in the back corner. It creaked under him, but held, just like he had all his life. The teacher arrived, Ms. Hina, young, confident, carrying a stack of books and the weight of a classroom that wasn't supposed to surprise her. She stepped inside and stopped dead when she saw him. For a moment, her eyes widened, then softened. She set her books down and approached him slowly. "Sir, is everything okay?" Yousuf stood slightly, respectfully, his voice cracking. "I am a student now, in your class, if you will allow it." The teacher's throat tightened. She blinked away emotion. "Of course," she whispered. "Of course." She turned to the class, who were whispering, laughing nervously, nudging each other. "Everyone," she announced, her voice steady, her eyes bright. "This is Mr. Yousuf. He is joining us from today." A boy chuckled. A girl whispered, "He's older than my grandfather." The teacher silenced them with one look. "Show respect," she said firmly. "You don't know the battles a person has fought to sit where you are sitting every day." The class went quiet, not forced, understanding. Ms. Hina turned to Yousuf. "Please take your seat, sir." He did, slowly, heart pounding, hands shaking, but with dignity. The first lesson. "Open your books," the teacher said. "We're beginning with basics." Books rustled, pages flipped, pens clicked, and Yousuf opened a brand new notebook with trembling hands. He held a pencil like it was something holy, a relic, a wish, a second chance. The teacher wrote on the board, "Today's lesson, the power of words." Yousuf's eyes widened. The words blurred for a moment because his eyes filled with tears. He blinked until he could see clearly and whispered to himself, "I am reading with my own eyes." The teacher noticed, didn't intrude, didn't pity, just smiled the way someone smiles when witnessing bravery. She began speaking. Words can wound, and words can heal. They can close doors, and they can open them. Yousuf listened like a man starving, like someone hearing music for the first time. Every sentence, he absorbed it with reverence. The class slowly stopped whispering about him, then stopped looking at him, then started watching him, not with mockery, with wonder, because they saw something they had never seen. A man older than all their grandparents, writing the alphabet with the passion of a child learning to fly. A whisper from the past. But as he wrote, a memory rose, sharp and unresolved. His father's voice from decades ago. "Books won't fill your stomach, Yousuf. Work, work if you want to live." He felt the sting in the middle of his chest, the old pain trying to claw its way back. He closed his eyes, his pencil shook, his breath trembled. For a moment, he felt like that 10-year-old boy again, the one who was told dreams were useless. But then, a new voice rose, not loud, not angry, just steady, his own. "I'm not working to survive anymore. I'm learning to live. He opened his eyes and continued writing. The pencil moved, the letters formed, the page filled, and with each stroke, something inside him healed. When class ended, students gathered around him, not to laugh, not to tease, but to ask, "Sir, can we sit with you at lunch? Do you need help with homework? Will you tell us stories about your life?" He smiled, a real smile, one he hadn't felt in decades. "Thank you," he whispered. "I would like that." As he walked out of the classroom, the sunlight hit him gently, as if welcoming him to a world he thought he had lost. He looked up at the blue sky and said quietly, "Today, I lived a little." The day passed slowly, not like a burden, but like a wound that had begun to breathe again. Yousuf walked home with a strange mix of exhaustion and something he had forgotten long ago: purpose. Every step whispered, "You did it. You went. You stayed. You learned." But the moment he reached home, the silence of his small room wrapped around him again. Heavy, cold, too familiar. He placed his new notebooks on the table. He touched the pages gently, as if they were fragile, as if they might disappear the moment he blinked. He whispered, "Don't take this from me." It wasn't a prayer to God. It wasn't fear of school. It was fear that life had a habit of taking everything he cared for. He closed the notebook, ate a simple meal, and slept with his heart swollen with hope. The next day, morning light crawled through the window and tugged him awake. He sat up slowly, feeling the stiffness in his bones, but something felt different today. Lighter, almost new. He reached for his shirt, buttoned it wrong twice, laughed at himself softly, and tried again. It felt good to laugh. It felt good to feel anything. He grabbed his bag and stepped into the world like he had been reborn. At school, a new challenge. As he arrived, students waved at him, some shy, some excited, some just curious. A boy shouted, "Good morning, Sir Yousuf!" Sir, a word he had never been called, not once, in 78 years. He smiled, but life never lets a person heal without testing the wound again. The test begins. It was math period, the dreaded subject, the one that had chased him out of his village school when he was young. Numbers had always felt cruel to him, cold symbols he couldn't catch. The teacher, Mr. Fawad, young, strict, and sharp-eyed, walked in holding a board marker like a sword. He saw Yousuf, stopped, eyebrow raised. "So, you're the new student." Yousuf nodded, respectfully, quietly. Mr. Fawad smirked, not kindly, not cruelly, but the kind of smirk young men give old men when they believe age is a sign of uselessness. "Well then," he said loudly, "let's see if you belong here." The class shifted uncomfortably. He pointed at the board where large numbers were written. 489 plus 273 minus 52 equals question mark. A simple problem for teenagers. A storm for a man who hadn't touched numbers in half a century. He handed the marker to Yousuf. "Come, solve it." The entire class froze. Yousuf stood, slowly, like a man walking toward something painful but necessary. He approached the board. The numbers blurred. Sweat formed on his forehead. His hands shook. His breath shortened. He heard old voices again, voices from childhood, drowning him, taunting him. He's stupid. He can't learn. Take him out of school. Put him to work." His chest tightened, his vision dimmed. He lowered the marker. His hand fell to his side. He whispered, I can't." Some kids chuckled. Some winced. Some looked away. The teacher folded his arms. "So you don't belong here." That sentence hit like a knife pushed into an old wound that never healed properly. Yousuf felt tears burning behind his eyes. He wanted to run, like he ran at age 10, like he ran from opportunity, like he ran from life. But then, a voice rose in the crowd. A teenage girl, front row, confident, fearless. "Sir, that's not fair." The teacher turned. "What?" She looked him dead in the eye. "He hasn't held a pencil in decades. He needs time, not humiliation." A boy added, "He can learn. We've seen him. He tries harder than all of us." Another voice, "Give him a chance. He deserves it." Their voices grew, one by one. Not shouting, not fighting, just supporting. For him, a man who had no one for decades. The teacher stared at the class, surprised by their unity. He turned back to Yousuf, softened, just slightly. "You can sit down," he said quietly. "We'll start slow." Yousuf lowered his head. "Thank you." Barely a whisper. He walked back to his seat, legs weak, hands trembling, but heart burning with something he had never felt before. He mattered. Not because of age, not because of knowledge, not because of strength. He mattered because he tried, and someone noticed. The healing begins. Class continued. The teacher explained basics, slowly, patiently. And Yousuf? He wrote down every number as if each one was a step toward a person he had lost long ago. Himself. The classmates helped him, quietly, kindly, without pity. Just human to human, heart to heart. The girl who defended him passed him a small note. "Don't give up. We're with you." He folded it carefully, as if it were something sacred, and placed it in his pocket. For the first time in his life, he did not feel alone in a classroom. At lunch break, while students ate sandwiches, laughed, ran around, Yousuf sat under a tree with his lunchbox. 2 rotis, a little pickle, a little hope. 3 boys came and sat with him. Then 2 girls, then another. "Tell us about your childhood. Tell us about your work. Do you have stories?" He smiled. He had thousands, mostly painful. But pain, when shared with gentle hearts, turns into wisdom. He told them stories of factories, machines, sleepless nights, burning hands, lost dreams, and the courage to start again at 78. Some kids listened with wide eyes, some with tears, some with quiet awe. One boy whispered, "Sir Yousuf, you're the bravest person I've ever met." Yousuf lowered his gaze, his voice cracked. "I'm not brave, I'm just late." But the children shook their heads. "No, sir, late or early, you showed up." And for a moment, he felt something enter his chest and repair a part of him that had been broken for decades. Belonging. When the bell rang and students went back to class, Yousuf remained under the tree for a few seconds longer. He placed a hand over his heart and whispered, "I'm healing." Lunch ended, but the warmth of the children's company stayed wrapped around Yousuf's heart like a soft blanket he never knew he needed. He walked back to the class with a small smile, a quiet smile. The kind of smile people wear when life finally gives a little mercy. But mercy rarely lasts long before life tests it. A phone call from the past. After school ended, Yousuf walked home slowly, savoring every step, every memory, every new breath. The street vendors, the children playing cricket, the evening breeze, everything felt alive, as if the world was finally welcoming him back. He reached home, placed his bag on the table, and was about to open his notebook when he heard it, his old, dusty landline phone ringing, a sound he rarely heard, a sound that usually meant bad news. He felt his stomach twist. He answered, "Hello?" A cold, sharp voice replied, "Is this Mr. Yousuf Ahmed?"
Yes? Who is this? This is from the city hospital. We need you to come immediately. His heart dropped. His hand trembled. What happened? Who is it? The voice responded, "An old co-worker of yours, Mr. Bashir. He is in critical condition." The room spun. Bashir, the man he worked with for 30 years, the closest thing he ever had to family, the only person who knew his struggles, his nights, his sacrifices, his regrets. "I'll come," Yousuf whispered, already grabbing his sandals. "And Mr. Yousuf," the voice added, "you should come fast. He is asking for you." The hospital. The hospital hallway smelled of disinfectant and quiet grief. Patients in wheelchairs, doctors rushing, whispers of fear, machines beeping, life and death fighting silently. Yousuf was guided to a room. Inside, Bashir lay pale, thin, breathing with difficulty, tubes everywhere, almost unrecognizable. But the moment he saw Yousuf, his eyes softened, tears welled. "You came," he whispered. Yousuf moved closer, clutching the bed rail. "How could I not? You called for me." Bashir smiled weakly, a sad smile, a tired smile. "You still walk like an old donkey," he wheezed out a thin laugh, trying to lighten the moment, trying to stay himself. Yousuf laughed softly, then tears spilled. He wiped them quickly. "What happened?" Yousuf whispered. Bashir closed his eyes. A tear slid down. "Time happened, my friend." Then he opened them again. "But I asked for you because I need to tell you something before I go." Yousuf's heart lurched. "Don't talk like that. You will be fine. We will go home. I'll make soup for you. We'll..." Bashir gripped his hand with surprising strength. "No, listen." Yousuf froze. Bashir's voice broke. "You remember the factory accident 20 years ago?" Yousuf's breath stopped. A memory he had buried deep in the darkest corner of his soul began to surface. The screams, the fire, the falling metal, the ceiling collapsing, the day he almost died, the day someone else did die. You saved me that day," Bashir whispered. "Told me to run. Pushed me out." Yousuf's hands shook. "No, Bashir, don't bring that up." Bashir continued, "But what you never knew is who you didn't save." Silence. A silence that crushed. Yousuf swallowed. Who? His voice barely a breath. Bashir stared at him. "The boy. The new boy. The one you told the supervisor was too young to be in the factory." Yousuf's blood ran cold. His knees buckled. He held the bed rail like he would collapse. "No," he whispered. "Don't say it." Bashir nodded weakly. "He died in that fire. Trapped. Burned." Yousuf's tears fell uncontrollably. He shook his head, shaking like a child. "I begged them not to let him work. He was only 14. I told them. They didn't listen." Bashir continued, voice shaking. "And you blamed yourself all your life.
You punished yourself. You gave up everything, your joy, your dreams, even your education, thinking you didn't deserve happiness. Yousuf collapsed into the chair, crying, sobbing silently, the pain resurfacing like a storm he had held in for 20 years. He whispered, I failed him. Bashir touched his hand. No, you failed nothing. You were just a boy trying to speak truth to men who didn't care. He coughed, painful, bloody. Yousuf panicked. Call the nurse! Call someone! But Bashir held his hand tight. No time.
Then, with trembling breath, he whispered the words that would break and rebuild Yousuf in the same moment. Yousuf, stop punishing yourself. Live, read, learn, study. For him, for the boy, for the life he never got. His eyes filled, then dulled, then closed, slowly, gently, finally. Yousuf froze. His breath stuck. His heart stopped. He whispered, Bashir? Bashir, open your eyes. Bashir? Silence answered him. Only silence. Yousuf's body crumpled forward, his forehead resting on Bashir's cold hand, tears slipping onto the sheets. And in that room, with the soft humming machines and fading heartbeat lines, he whispered the promise he had never dared make before. I will study. I will learn. I will not waste what life he lost. He held Bashir's hand as if letting go would mean losing the last piece of his past. Outside, a nurse gently closed the blinds to give him privacy. Inside, a man who hadn't cried in decades wept like a child. Night fell like a weight, heavy, unforgiving, cold. Yousuf walked home from the hospital as if every step dragged a memory behind it. The street lights were blurry through his tears. His sandals scraped the road, slow, broken, aimless, like a man carrying a ghost on his shoulders. When he entered his empty room, a silence greeted him that felt deeper than any wound still bleeding. He closed the door softly, as if afraid to disturb the grief living inside him. He sat on the bed, his hands trembling, his heart numb, his soul exhausted. Then his eyes fell on the school notebook lying open on the table. Pages that had once felt like hope now looked like betrayal. He whispered, How do I study when death follows me everywhere? He stared at the notebook. He wanted to tear it, throw it, burn it, anything to stop the guilt that was crawling through his chest like fire. Instead, he closed it gently, with shaking fingers, as if closing the notebook would close the pain. But pain does not listen. He lay down and cried quietly until sleep took him like a tide pulling a broken boat. Morning. The sun rose, but Yousuf didn't. Hours passed. Birds chirped. Children left for school. Life moved without him. He remained in bed, staring at the ceiling, eyes dry and soul empty. His body didn't want to move. His heart refused to try. What's the point? He whispered to the empty room. A tear rolled down his temple. What is the point of my learning if I couldn't save a child 20 years ago? The guilt was a chain, cold, tight, wrapped around his ribs. He thought of Bashir, his last words, his shaking breath. Study for the boy. It hurt, the kind of hurt that makes a man want to stop living. He closed his eyes and let the morning pass without him.
Knock on the door. Around noon, a knock came. Soft, polite, persistent. He ignored it. Another knock. Louder, concerned. He covered his ears. A third knock. Firm, steady, not going away. He finally forced himself up and opened the door. Standing outside were 3 students, the same kids who ate lunch with him, Ayaz, Maria, and little Adil. They looked at him, eyes full of worry. "Sir, you didn't come to school," Maria whispered. Yousuf tried to smile, failed. "I wasn't feeling well." Ayaz stepped forward. "Sir, we know. The hospital called the school. They told them about Mr. Bashir." Yousuf's chest tightened. He turned away. "I just need time." But the children didn't leave. They stepped closer. Adil, the youngest, tugged softly on Yousuf's sleeve. "Sir, school felt empty today without you." A sentence so gentle, yet so powerful, it nearly made him fall. He blinked hard, trying not to cry. Maria spoke next. "Sir, you taught us something." He looked at her, eyes tired. "What did I teach you?" She held her notebook up, a single sentence written on it. "When life hurts, you study harder." He froze. Tears filled his eyes again. Ayaz added, "You said yesterday that learning made you feel alive." Adil whispered, "If you stop, what will happen to us?" Yousuf knelt down slowly, knees cracking, eyes wet. "Children, I am old. I carry too much pain, too much history, too many mistakes." Maria put her small hand on his trembling one. "So learn how to forgive yourself as you study." Ayaz added, "And learn how to live again." Adil whispered, "And learn how to stay with us." Yousuf lowered his head, cried openly in front of them, tears falling not just for Bashir, not just for the boy who died, but for himself, for the boy he once was, for the boy nobody helped. The children didn't move, didn't judge, didn't pity. They just stayed, present, human, with him. When he finally calmed, Maria wiped his tears with her sleeve. "Sir," she whispered, "you don't have to be strong. Just show up." Those words broke something inside him and healed something else. He inhaled deeply, painfully, but with purpose, and whispered, "I will come tomorrow." Adil smiled. Ayaz nodded. Maria squeezed his hand. "You promised," she said. He nodded. A promise not to them, but to himself. That evening, he sat at his desk, opened the notebook, picked up his pencil. His hand trembled, not with fear, but with feeling. He whispered, "Bashir, this is for you, for the boy, and for the child I left behind in myself." And he began to write, slowly, painfully, hopefully. Each letter felt like stitching a wound closed. Morning arrived like a hesitant apology. Soft, slow, a little afraid to touch the man who cried himself to sleep. But Yousuf woke up before the sunlight fully entered the room. He sat on the edge of his bed, tired eyes, trembling hands, but a quiet, determined fire glowing inside him. He stared at his bag, lying near the door. Yesterday, it felt like a burden. Today, it looked like a lifeline. He whispered, "I promised them." He stood. Slow movements, aching bones, heavy heart. But steps, real steps,
toward life. He put on his worn shirt, buttoned it carefully, and combed his thinning hair. He looked at himself in the mirror. The mirror looked back with 78 years of pain and one small spark of courage. He said to his reflection, "Bashir, I'm going." And he left. At the school gate, the blue gate came into view, not like a door, but like a heartbeat waiting for him. The guard saw him and smiled immediately. "Student Yousuf, we thought maybe you wouldn't come." Yousuf exhaled deeply. "I almost didn't. But you're here." The guard's smile warmed. "And that's what matters." Yousuf stepped inside. The air felt different today. Not heavy, not unfamiliar. Like the school was waiting for him. Like it had missed him. As he entered the corridor, something unexpected happened. Students began clapping. Clapping softly. Clapping warmly. Clapping with genuine respect. He froze. His eyes widened. His throat tightened. Ayaz stepped forward. "We made everyone promise to clap when you came back." Maria added, "You're the bravest student in this whole school." Little Adil whispered, "And the strongest." Yousuf felt tears filling his eyes. He tried to speak. Failed. He raised his hand, shaking, to thank them, but they clapped louder. Not mockingly, not awkwardly, but for him, for his pain, for his courage, for his return. He wiped his eyes, smiled, a small smile, but one that carried decades of longing. Together they walked to class. The new lesson begins. Today the teacher was Ms. Hina, the language teacher, gentle, soft-spoken, wise beyond her years. She smiled when she saw Yousuf enter the classroom. "Welcome back," she said, voice warm like morning tea. He nodded, trying not to cry again. She wrote on the board, "Today's lesson, the words we carry." Yousuf stared at the title, his chest tightened. Words he carried were heavy, dark, painful, regret-filled. The class began. Ms. Hina asked everyone to write one sentence that represented something they carried inside them, something they wished they didn't. Students wrote quickly, "I carry fear of failure. I carry anger. I carry loneliness. I carry pressure." Then she looked at Yousuf gently. "Mr. Yousuf, would you like to share?" The room held its breath. Yousuf's hand shook as he picked up his pencil. His throat burned, his eyes blurred, but he wrote, slowly, painfully, honestly. Then he stood, his voice soft but steady. "I carry the ghost of a boy I could not save." The classroom froze. Even the air stopped moving. Every teenager looked at him not as an old man, not as a stranger, but as someone who had lived a lifetime of wounds they could not imagine. Ms. Hina stepped closer, placed a gentle hand on his shoulder. "May I tell you something?" He nodded. She said, "Sometimes the ghosts we carry are not asking to punish us. They are asking us to continue living because they could not." Yousuf's eyes filled. He whispered, "Bashir said the same before he went." She smiled softly. "Then both your friend and your heart are telling you the same truth." The class remained silent, but not uncomfortable. A respectful silence, a healing silence, a silence that holds someone's pain so it doesn't crush them. Yousuf sat slowly. He breathed deeply. For the first time in 20 years, he felt the weight in his chest shift, not disappear, but move just enough to let light in. The decline of fear. As the days passed, something changed in Yousuf. He no longer walked as if the world was watching him fail. He walked as if the world was witnessing him rise. He solved simple math problems, slowly but proudly.
He learned English letters like they were blessings. He read children's stories as if they were scriptures. Every small victory washed away years of feeling not enough. Students helped him when he stumbled. Teachers checked on him with genuine care. And slowly, the memory of the boy who died in the fire began transforming from a wound into a purpose. He studied for him. He wrote for him. He lived for him. And one day, in the middle of class, Yousuf realized something. The boy wasn't haunting him. He was guiding him. But every healing has a test. Just when life began to feel kind, just when his steps grew lighter, something happened. Something small, something ordinary, something that shouldn't have hurt. But for Yousuf, it was enough to reopen the wound. The class had a test that day, a simple English reading test. Every student finished quickly, even the slow ones. But Yousuf stared at the page, letters swimming, words blurring, breath tightening. The pressure, the guilt, the memories, the years, the fear, everything came crashing back. His pencil fell, his hands shook, his heartbeat loud in his ears. A panic rising he couldn't control. He whispered to himself, I can't read. I'm too old, too late. A tear fell on the paper. The words dissolved under it. A student across the room whispered, Poor old man, he'll never pass. The sentence cut deep, deeper than it should have, deeper than the speaker intended. He felt the world closing in on him again, his past strangling his present, his mistakes shouting louder than his courage. Miss Hina approached, saw the tear-stained page, saw his trembling. She knelt beside him and said softly, Mr. Yousuf, look at me. He lifted his eyes slowly. She smiled gently, soft, warm, steady. You're not failing. You're learning. This test isn't judging you. It's waiting for you. He whispered, But I can't. She placed her hand over his trembling one. Then you will learn tomorrow, and the next day, and the next, until you can. Another tear fell, this time not from pain, but relief. She took the test paper and said, You don't fail for walking slowly. You fail only if you stop walking. And for the first time in a long, long while, Yousuf believed he could continue. That night after the reading test, Yousuf walked home with his shoulders heavy and his heart heavier. The streets were buzzing with children playing, neighbors chatting, vendors closing shop. But he walked through it all as if he were invisible, as if the world had moved ahead without him, again. He stepped inside his tiny home, closed the door gently, sat on the floor, not on the chair, not on the bed. The floor, because he felt small again, like a child who failed. He whispered to himself, Maybe they were right. Maybe I don't belong there. He looked at his notebooks, his wrinkled hands, his trembling fingers. All the old voices returned like ghosts. You're too slow. You're too old. You're uneducated. You're good for work, not books. The shame rose like a tide choking his breath. He cried again, quietly, desperately, broken, like a man who had run out of reasons to hope. He didn't sleep that night. Morning, a storm of whispering. When he arrived at school the next day, he felt eyes on him, whispers, giggles, murmurs he tried not to hear. A group of boys laughed loudly near the staircase.
That old man couldn't read a page. He should be in an old age home, not school. He'll die before exams come.
Their laughter stabbed him like knives, not because of their words, but because he believed them. He froze, body stiff, heart trembling. Maria saw him frozen there and rushed to his side. "Sir, don't listen to them." But he couldn't speak, couldn't smile, couldn't hide the pain. His eyes shimmered
with tears he didn't want to shed in front of children. Ayaz joined them. "Sir, please come with us." But just then, the group of boys passed by and said loudly, "Look, the senior citizen has bodyguards now." The classroom corridor erupted in small, cruel giggles. That did it. The pain inside Yousuf split open. The heartbreak of the test, the death of Bashir, the memory of the boy in the fire, the years of being called stupid, the years of being told he wasn't enough. It all collided. He clutched his chest, breath shaking, knees weak. Maria grabbed his arm. "Sir, breathe." A teacher rushed toward them, but before anyone could help, Yousuf whispered, "Maybe they're right. Maybe I don't belong here." And he turned and walked out of the building, slowly, painfully, defeated. Students watched him leave, some shocked, some silent, some guilty, some ashamed. Maria started crying. "Ayaz, we have to do something." Ayaz nodded, jaw clenched. He came here to fight his past, and we just let his present break him. They ran to Ms. Hina's office. "It's time," Ayaz said. "We need to speak up." The announcement that changed everything. The next morning, something unusual happened. The entire school was gathered in the assembly hall. Every student, every teacher, every worker. Rows and rows of faces, a sea of youth. Whispers filled the air. "Why are we here? What's happening? Is it about the electricity? Is someone leaving?" Then Ms. Hina stepped forward, calm, serious, eyes steady. "Students," she said, "today we will address something far more important than books or exams." The crowd quieted. She continued. "Yesterday, a student of ours walked out of this school because he felt unwelcome." A ripple went through the hall. "You all know who I'm talking about." Her voice softened. "Mr. Yousuf." Murmurs, guilt, whispered regrets, lowered eyes. She raised a single finger to silence them. "Some of you laughed at him. Some whispered behind his back. Some mocked his age. Some mocked his struggle to read." Silence. "But let me tell you something." She took a step forward. "He is braver than every single one of us in this room." The hall fell perfectly silent. "While all of you are given education for free, he is fighting his age, his fears, his past, his pain, and his regrets just to sit where you sit now." Her voice grew firmer. "He has more courage in one trembling step than most people have in their entire youth." Students stared, some with wide eyes, some with tears. Ayaz stepped forward. "I want to say something." Ms. Hina nodded. Ayaz faced the entire school, hands shaking, but voice steady. "We made a man who survived life feel like he didn't belong because he couldn't read fast enough." The hall went silent. "We think phones, clothes, grades, age matter." He shook his head. "But that man, that old man, came to school to learn because he wanted to live again." Maria stepped up beside him. "With one mistake," she said. "We told him he didn't deserve education." Her voice cracked. "That was cruel." Students lowered their heads. Then Adil, small, shy Adil, stepped onto the stage. Tears in his eyes, voice tiny but powerful. He whispered into the mic, "Sir Yousuf, please come back. We're sorry." A silence spread over the hall, a silence full of guilt, but also change, a silence waiting for forgiveness. The principal came forward. "I want all of you to understand something." His voice echoed, powerful. "Education is not a privilege for the young. It is a right for the willing." He paused. "And Mr. Yousuf is the most willing student we have ever had." Then, he said the words that changed everything. "He will return, and when he does, you will applaud him the way heroes are welcomed." The hall erupted, not in cheers, but in emotion. Students stood, clapped softly. Some cried, some hugged each other, some whispered, "He deserves better. We hurt him. We'll fix it." A knock on Yousuf's door, again. That afternoon, a knock came at Yousuf's house. Then another. Then another. He opened the door and froze. Standing outside were more than 30 students. Maria, Ayaz, Adil, and dozens more, holding signs, handmade, written with markers. "Come back, sir. We are sorry. You belong with us. Your seat is waiting. We need you." Yousuf's heart stopped. His breath shook. His eyes filled instantly. Maria stepped forward, voice trembling. "Sir, we made mistakes." Ayaz added, "We hurt you. We didn't understand." Another girl said, "But please don't give up. Don't walk away. You taught us something no textbook ever could." Adil stepped forward, tiny hands holding a sign drawn in crayons. "Please come back. We can't learn without you." Yousuf covered his mouth as a sob tore out from somewhere deep inside him. A sob decades old. He cried openly, on the doorstep of his small house, while dozens of teenagers stood quietly and waited. When he finally found his voice, it was thin, weak, but full of emotion. He whispered, "No one ever came for me in my whole life." Maria's eyes filled. "But we are here now." He looked at them, all of them, and whispered, "Why?" Ayaz stepped forward, smiled softly. "Because, sir, for many of us, you are the only adult who tries harder than we do." Silence. Powerful. Healing. Yousuf wiped his tears, nodded slowly, then said the words that turned this moment into history. "I will come back tomorrow." A roar of relieved cheers erupted. Joy, relief, applause, hope, warmth, love, all flooding the street. Students clapped, smiled, cried, and for the first time in 78 years, Yousuf felt something he had never felt before. He wasn't alone in the world. That night, after the reading test, Yousuf walked home with his shoulders heavy and his heart heavier. The streets were buzzing with children playing, neighbors chatting, vendors closing shop, but he walked through it all as if he were invisible, as if the world had moved ahead without him, again. He stepped inside his tiny home, closed the door gently, sat on the floor, not on the chair, not on the bed, the floor, because he felt small again, like a child who failed. He whispered to himself, "Maybe they were right. Maybe I don't belong there." He looked at his notebooks, his wrinkled hands, his trembling fingers. All the old voices returned like ghosts. "You're too slow. You're too old. You're uneducated. You're good for work,
not books. The shame rose like a tide, choking his breath. He cried again, quietly, desperately, broken, like a man who had run out of reasons to hope. He didn't sleep that night. Morning, a storm of whispering. When he arrived at school the next day, he felt eyes on him. Whispers, giggles, murmurs he tried not to hear. A group of boys laughed loudly near the staircase.
That old man couldn't read a page. He should be in an old age home, not school. He'll die before exams come.
Their laughter stabbed him like knives, not because of their words, but because he believed them. He froze, body stiff, heart trembling. Maria saw him frozen there and rushed to his side. "Sir, don't listen to them." But he couldn't speak, couldn't smile, couldn't hide the pain. His eyes shimmered with tears he didn't want to shed in front of children. Ayaz joined them. "Sir, please come with us." But just then, the group of boys passed by and said loudly, "Look, the senior citizen has bodyguards now." The classroom corridor erupted in small, cruel giggles. That did it. The pain inside Yousuf split open. The heartbreak of the test, the death of Bashir, the memory of the boy in the fire, the years of being called stupid, the years of being told he wasn't enough, it all collided. He clutched his chest, breath shaking, knees weak. Maria grabbed his arm. "Sir, breathe." A teacher rushed toward them, but before anyone could help, Yousuf whispered, "Maybe they're right. Maybe I don't belong here." And he turned and walked out of the building, slowly, painfully, defeated. Students watched him leave, some shocked, some silent, some guilty, some ashamed. Maria started crying. "Ayaz, we have to do something." Ayaz nodded, jaw clenched. He came here to fight his past, and we just let his present break him. They ran to Miss Hina's office. "It's time," Ayaz said. "We need to speak up." The announcement that changed everything. The next morning, something unusual happened. The entire school was gathered in the assembly hall. Every student, every teacher, every worker. Rows and rows of faces, a sea of youth. Whispers filled the air. "Why are we here? What's happening? Is it about the electricity? Is someone leaving?" Then Ms. Hina stepped forward, calm, serious, eyes steady. "Students," she said, "today we will address something far more important than books or exams." The crowd quieted. She continued, "Yesterday, a student of ours walked out of this school because he felt unwelcome." A ripple went through the hall. "You all know who I'm talking about." Her voice softened. "Mr. Yousuf." Murmurs, guilt, whispered regrets, lowered eyes. She raised a single finger to silence them. "Some of you laughed at him. Some whispered behind his back. Some mocked his age. Some mocked his struggle to read." Silence. "But let me tell you something." She took a step forward. "He is braver than every single one of us in this room." The hall fell perfectly silent. "While all of you are given education for free, he is fighting his age, his fears, his past, his pain, and his regrets, just to sit where you sit now." Her voice grew firmer. "He has more courage in one trembling step than most people have in their entire youth." Students stared, some with wide eyes, some with tears. Ayaz stepped forward. "I want to say something." Ms. Hina nodded. Ayaz faced the entire school, hands shaking, but voice steady. "We made a man who survived life feel like he didn't belong because he couldn't read fast enough.
The hall went silent. We think phones, clothes, grades, age matter. He shook his head. But that man, that old man, came to school to learn because he wanted to live again. Maria stepped up beside him. With one mistake, she said. We told him he didn't deserve education. Her voice cracked. That was cruel. Students lowered their heads. Then Adil, small, shy Adil, stepped onto the stage. Tears in his eyes, voice tiny but powerful. He whispered into the mic. Sir Yousuf, please come back. We're sorry. A silence spread over the hall. A silence full of guilt, but also change. A silence waiting for forgiveness. The principal came forward. I want all of you to understand something. His voice echoed, powerful. Education is not a privilege for the young. It is a right for the willing. He paused. And Mr. Yousuf is the most willing student we have ever had. Then, he said the words that changed everything. He will return. And when he does, you will applaud him the way heroes are welcomed. The hall erupted, not in cheers, but in emotion. Students stood, clapped softly. Some cried, some hugged each other, some whispered, "He deserves better. We hurt him. We'll fix it." A knock on Yousuf's door. Again. That afternoon, a knock came at Yousuf's house, then another, then another. He opened the door and froze. Standing outside were more than 30 students. Maria, Ayaz, Adil, and dozens more, holding signs, handmade, written with markers. Come back, sir. We are sorry. You belong with us. Your seat is waiting. We need you. Yousuf's heart stopped. His breath shook. His eyes filled instantly. Maria stepped forward, voice trembling. Sir, we made mistakes. Ayaz added, We hurt you. We didn't understand. Another girl said, But please don't give up. Don't walk away. You taught us something no textbook ever could. Adil stepped forward, tiny hands holding a sign drawn in crayons. Please come back. We can't learn without you. Yousuf covered his mouth as a sob tore out from somewhere deep inside him, a sob decades old. He cried openly, on the doorstep of his small house, while dozens of teenagers stood quietly and waited. When he finally found his voice, it was thin, weak, but full of emotion. He whispered, No one ever came for me in my whole life. Maria's eyes filled. But we're here now. He looked at them, all of them, and whispered, Why? Ayaz stepped forward, smiled softly. Because, sir, for many of us, you are the only adult who tries harder than we do. Silence, powerful, healing. Yousuf wiped his tears, nodded slowly, then said the words that turned this moment into history. I will come back tomorrow. A roar of relieved cheers erupted, joy, relief, applause, hope, warmth, love, all flooding the street. Students clapped, smiled, cried, and for the first time in 78 years, Yousuf felt something he had never felt before. He wasn't alone in the world. If you want, I will continue part 9 immediately, the most powerful part. Yousuf returns to school. The entire building welcomes him. He gives a speech that leaves the school in tears. His redemption truly begins. Just say, part 9, and end. The Old Man Who Returned to School at 78, part 9, final part, very long, cinematic, emotional ending. The next morning, the sky was washed clean, soft light, gentle breeze, a morning that felt like forgiveness. Yousuf woke up before the birds began singing, but this time, he didn't wake with fear or sorrow.
He woke with purpose, a quiet purpose, a steady purpose, a purpose that walked beside his age instead of fighting it. He wore his cleanest shirt, combed his thin hair, closed his notebook gently like it was a fragile dream he didn't want to lose. He stood before the mirror, lines on his face, a lifetime of loss. But behind all of it, a glow, a life reigniting. He whispered to his reflection, "Today, I face the world." He stepped outside, the walk back. The street felt different today. Vendors smiled, neighbors watched him with respect, children waved. It wasn't pity, it wasn't curiosity, it was recognition. Recognition of a man who refused to be defeated by time, fear, or life itself. As he approached the school, his steps slowed, not out of fear, but out of disbelief, because the school gate was covered in decorations, paper garlands, hand-drawn banners, colorful signs with scribbled messages. "Welcome back, Sir Yousuf. We are honored. The bravest student returns." He stopped. His eyes filled instantly. He clasped his mouth to hold in the sob rising in his chest. The guard, smiling widely, said, "Sir, they've been waiting for you since morning." The arrival. The moment Yousuf stepped inside the gate, the entire school courtyard erupted. Hundreds of students clapping, teachers standing proudly, the principal smiling warmly, children cheering his name. "Sir Yousuf, welcome back! You did it! You came!" It wasn't noise, it wasn't chaos. It was love, pure, honest love, the kind he had never received, not as a child, not as an adult, not as an old man, until now. Tears streamed down his face. He didn't hide them, didn't wipe them away. They belonged there. They were part of him. The principal approached, held his hand gently, and whispered, "We are honored to have you as our student." Students parted to make a path for him, a path lined with applause, smiles, and warmth. As he walked down that path, he whispered to himself, "So this is what it feels like to be seen." The speech. They led him to the assembly stage, a wooden podium, a microphone, a sea of young faces waiting for him. The principal announced, "Today, we will hear from the bravest student this school has ever had." Applause. Yousuf stepped forward slowly, hands trembling, voice trembling, heart trembling. But he spoke, not as a victim, not as an old man, not as someone broken. He spoke as someone reborn. His voice was soft, but it carried. His final speech. "My dear children and my dear teachers, I stand before you at 78 years old, not as a man full of wisdom, but as a man full of wounds." He paused. The hall was silent. My whole life, I worked. Factories, machines, shifts that broke my bones, years that broke my dreams. A hush fell deeper. I wanted to study. I wanted to sit in a classroom like you. But life had other plans. He swallowed hard. I lost people I loved. I lost myself. I carried guilt for a boy I couldn't save, for a life that ended in front of my eyes. The hall held its breath. I thought I did not deserve to dream again. He lifted his head slowly. But then, I walked through your gate. A small smile. And you children, you teachers, you opened your hearts to a tired, trembling old man who came with nothing but a notebook and a broken past. Tears streamed down many faces in the hall. And today, standing here, I want to tell you something I never learned as a child. He inhaled deeply. It is never too late to be who you were meant to be. A murmur of emotion rippled through the hall. And you know why I came back? He looked at them all, eyes shining. Because someone told me that ghosts don't haunt us to punish us. They come to push us toward life. He placed a hand over his heart. And now, for the first time ever, I am living. He bowed his head. Thank you for giving me a place in the world. Silence. Then, the loudest applause the school had ever heard. Students standing, teachers wiping tears, the principal clapping slowly, proudly. It wasn't applause for an old man. It was applause for courage, for persistence, for humanity, for rebirth.
The final scene, the redemption. Days passed, weeks, months. Yousuf became the heart of the school. Students sat with him at lunch. Teachers checked on him. He read slowly, but read proudly. He solved math problems, one shaky number at a time. He smiled more often, laughed more deeply, lived more fully. And then, one quiet afternoon, as he sat under the school's old tree, reading a simple English story, something beautiful happened. A breeze blew, gentle, warm, kind, and for the first time, the guilt he carried for decades felt light, almost gone. He closed the book, looked up at the sky and whispered, "Bashir, the boy, I hope you see me. I hope you know, I'm finally doing it." He smiled softly, a smile not of victory, but of peace, a smile of a man who spent his life surviving and finally learned how to live. And the tree above him swayed, as if nodding, as if approving, as if blessing him. Yousuf closed his eyes, leaned back, felt the sunlight on his face, and whispered his final truth. "I'm not late. I'm right on time."